So, hey everyone, welcome to the Courage in You podcast. My name is Desiree, if you do not know me. I am the owner of the Courage in You podcast. And if you are new to this podcast is about conversations and topics of mental health. And I am actually going to do a series for the month of May because it is Mental Health Awareness Month. And it's in collaboration with my sorority, Alpha Kappa Omicron, and organizations that dedicate their mission statement is about mental health. So let me introduce my special guest and our special guest. First is my sister Shiela from Alpha Kappa Omicron. Sis, can you please introduce yourself?
Of course. Hey, sis. I just want to start off by saying thank you for having me and what you're doing. This is about to reach millions and millions of people. But let me tell y'all a little bit about myself. I am a sister from Beta Chapter from the East Bay. I am from the 209. I wrote that very proudly. And last but not least, I am a motivational speaker, and I have these mini-sodes on my Instagram that you can check out. I have people come on board exactly what Desiree is doing up in here. Mm-hmm. So hopefully you guys can come check that out and enjoy yourselves.
Thank you so much for being here. Shiela is amazing. She is really good at her minisodes and very inspirational to watch and learn from. So please check her out in the minisodes. I will be linking her profile after this. And next, I want to introduce Ashna. She is president of Active Minds. Can you please introduce yourself and what?
Yeah, sure. I'm Ashna, and I'm the president of Active Minds. So Active Minds is a national organization, and it is a nonprofit, and it's all about mental advocacy and mental health among college-age students. So I was super excited as a freshman coming into SJSU that we have our own Active Minds chapter at SJSU. And I struggled through my mental health, but I've definitely persevered through it. And just the outreach for our club and the turnout of all our members and their enthusiasm has been so inspiring to me as well. So this semester, we're having a bunch of virtual events, and I'm just super stoked for the next couple of months with Active Minds.
Cool. Thank you so much for being here. I am in love with the idea of the organization, and I'm happy to hear that we have a chapter in San Jose State. And thank you for being the president for Active Minds.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. So let me introduce this topic. So this episode will actually be the first. It's the intro of what is mental health and why is mental health important. And let's focus on the first question, which is what is mental health? And I know this could be such a basic or simple question, but I want to talk about this because in the media portrays mental health as something negative. You know, we should only pay attention to mental health because we experience bad things or we're experiencing negative signs. But I don't want anyone to think mental health is only should be taken care of just because something bad happens or it's negative. I want to make sure that you understand what mental health is. Mental health is very, very important and vital to our lives because mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we think, feel, and act. It basically determines how we handle stress, relate to others, and make others feel important, and how we make choices. It's anything that is in our beautiful mind. And it's really important to understand that mental health is not only the negative, and it's all the beautiful things that makes us us. So that's my spiel about mental health. So I want to ask Ashna, why are you such an advocate for mental health, and why did you want to be a part of an organization such as Active Minds?
For me personally, in high school, I noticed like a lot of my friends around me are just classmates, and me myself, we all in one way or another struggled with our mental health because we just did not have that much balance in our life. We were just too focused in just getting those good grades, getting like, oh, it didn't matter how much you learned, just get an A. On every test, on every exam. So it was a little competitive. And I think when we're just too focused on that, we tend to forget, like you beautifully mentioned, our social well-being, our mental well-being, our emotional well-being. And since I've actually been through all those downfalls, it made me want to help people get more awareness about mental health, especially high school and college age students. As college age students, we're always stressed. We always have a coffee like 4-5 times a day when we have finals or midterms. And sometimes we neglect who we surround ourselves with. And I think that's really important aspect of mental health is to surround yourself with people who uplift you and are just not toxic people.
Yes.
And with the events that Active Minds hosts, last semester we had a lot of virtual game nights, and then this semester we had a little love yourself thing for Valentine's Day, and that just fostered a community at SJSU. And I think that's beautiful because a lot of our members, they were like, oh, like we feel really lonely, like just doing online classes and just staring at ourselves on a screen, that these small events just really make you feel together and meet new people as well, while talking about taking care of yourself. So I think that's just really beautiful.
That is super beautiful. And I'm really glad that you are a part of something that not only works for you, but helps people like feel themselves and feel connected to people. So that's really beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. And Sheila, sis, why are you such advocate for mental health, and why is mental health important for you?
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Ashna. Like, I'm in awe with the events that you're doing, and
Thanks.
like
It's
that.
all with the support of other officers as well,
Yeah,
too. Like we just work together. Yeah.
You
I
guys
think community is like we become one. But like for me, why I am a big advocate for mental health is I struggle with it, and I say that so boldly and so proudly because I feel like I'm an average person, and I go on the world being happy and showing up continuously for myself. But sometimes, like, I neglect myself and I tell myself I have to show up and I have to show up. But the truth is, the person I really have to show up for is God and myself. And like being happy and comfortable in who I was, because for a long time I was not comfortable in who I am. I was not um like I felt like I was living like a double life. Like I go out and do everything I need to like a robot, and then I come home and I'm like, okay, I just want to pull the plug.
That
And
was literally me. Like when I was in high school, I would like go through the motions. And when I come home, I would literally take a 2-hour nap because I was that exhausted of like being like a different person, like you said, a robot.
Yeah. And
yeah,
it's really important to make sure that to understand oh, sometimes I need breaks, and that is self-care. That's something that you need to do for importance of your mental health, because we get so caught up in living life. We get so caught up in doing this and doing that and working and doing everything that we need to do, but we never realize that we need to live for ourselves too.
And like it doesn't have to be something as fancy as like a manicure, like a facial. It could just be something as simple as going outside for a small walk, or
yeah.
Yes.
it doesn't have
Like
to be
the
expensive or glamorous.
right, like the normalities of like taking care of yourself is like, oh, buy yourself flowers, this, that is great, and that's not to knock. Trust
Yeah,
believe I buy
yeah, that's
myself
great too.
flowers
Yeah.
and I write myself letters, but
I love that.
right, but something that I had to learn to do was accept what I was going through. Like literally sit with the sadness, sit with it. And then you're so absolutely right. It's the community I surrounded myself with that like one of my friends literally had to sit with me. I was going through grief and she didn't talk to me. She didn't do anything, but having her by my side made me
Oh,
feel
that's so sweet of her.
right. And I was really in this dark moment that I would watch depression TED talks, stuff like that about depression. So I know, and she would just sit there with me. And I, up until today, I thank her for that. Shout out to Brianna. That's my sis in the other chat. In my chapters. So, but no, seriously, your community can build you. So.
Yes.
And it's also like so important just to with the media you consume. Like I've been just going through TikTok and I saw this really, I don't know if you guys saw this Pockets of Peace thing on TikTok by this
I heard of
TikToker
that.
named Bella. And she's so positive and the energy she gives out is just so nice. She's also a big advocate for like self-care, self-love. and she's really open about her journey. And she says this one thing that really stood with me is to love yourself in every step of your journey.
Yes,
So
I
just
love that.
not just at the end, but throughout the journey.
Yes, I love that because we kind of like think that life should be like rainbows and butterflies. And
Yeah.
yeah, everything other than rainbows and butterflies shouldn't happen. And that's not it. You know, I tell everyone,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, I tell,
Like, oh, once we graduate college, our life will be happy. Or, oh, once we get that job, our life will
No.
be
yeah.
happy. Or
It's
just
a
be happy.
journey.
Yeah, and we must like be happy and be present with the journey we have, no matter if it's bad, no matter if you're going through it. It's really important to understand that even if I'm going through it, this is my life and I'm going to learn through it and it's going to get better.
Uh-huh.
I
Exactly.
did this not because of what you said, sis, but like this like we talked about it. It's false positivity, like
Yeah.
this like stigma to always be happy, and like our culture, I feel really Filipino culture is like, oh, you're the happy Asian, da da da. But as soon as I turn sideways, it's like, who are you? And
Yeah.
then it causes identity crisis in me, and I'm just like, but enough about that.
But right, it's true that it's all of these factors and all like even living life makes you realize that like we must pay attention to mental health. And this is the reason why topics of mental health, and this is the reason why I made this podcast. This is the reason why Active Minds came to be. This is the reason why we have advocates for mental health, because we just realize that we have to do much more for ourselves and our beautiful mind that we have. So thank you both for sharing. So let's talk about what are signs and signals that we can see in ourselves or other people that needs help or assistance with mental health. And there's nothing wrong with that, you know. And this could be a topic of cries for help. That cries for help doesn't only constitute to someone reaching out to you. It can also be seeing, like hanging out with someone and seeing a difference in their behavior or their personality or demeanor. You know, sometimes cries for help isn't only like, hey, they're crying in front of you. It could be like, hey, like they're just reaching out to you randomly and you don't know why. They're calling you just to say hi. You know, there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, how are you doing? And generally ask them, how are you doing? You know, it could be a little indifference in anything that you can see, like, oh, I need to be there for someone. And what do y'all think?
No, I can agree. The moments I took really depressed, like you could not tell because I was making so much content. And this is how I was happy. This was my visual art. But deep inside, like trust and believe, I was crying out for help. I was literally, I have my art book right here. And the first thing I could draw was everything I drew was people crying, like, and that was like a self-representation of myself. And my mom had to look at the images and she was like, why are they always crying? And I was like, I don't know, Mom. And then I sat with it and I was like, oh, it's because I'm really sad. And it's so hard too because you got to check on your strong friends. You got to check on your happiest friends because
And it's not that hard to just check up on a friend, just a simple like text or a call. Because sometimes people get so into their own lives that they forget to check up on their close friends and family.
Yeah, and it's really important because like sometimes it's hard to distinct someone needs help, you know. And you know, a lot of people who are like victims of suicide, you know, their loved ones kind of say like, I did never know they even thought that way, you know. But it's just like changing the conversation, saying like, if like even if someone is just sad, you know, that's the thing I would say.
Maybe if someone's sad and you ask them, oh, how are you feeling? And they get defensive, and maybe you can just be like, oh, do you want to hang out one day? And then maybe I'll talk to them about how they're feeling, but just try to make them feel happy and do something you both would enjoy, because everyone would respond to it differently.
Yeah.
And making sad normal, like it's such a, like when my friend sat with me and she didn't judge me for it. Like, do you not, that takes so much courage of your friend to just be like, okay, I'm gonna sit with this with her and me. And I've done it too a couple of times, and just hold this space for people,
A safe space.
right? Just to be themselves. Like you don't have to be anything more, just be yourself. Because I feel like when people would try to make me happy when I was depressed, like try to force it on me, I would get more depressed because I can't get happy. So
Yeah.
please be careful. Like the way you give help, be very careful and be very open.
Uh-huh.
That's all I ask for anybody listening. You never know, it could rub somebody the wrong way.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
I've altered on that, but I'm learning, guys.
And for the audience, what would both of you say some things that you would look for to know that actually I need to check up on people?
Just if they're just not standing, I noticed this a lot, like with some of my friends in the past I've checked up on, they're just kind of looking at on the floor, like when they're walking, or their hobbies that used to interest them, they're not really that much involved in.
Yeah, I do.
Or you can tell they're just not genuine, you know, maybe they're just, or they just change their group of friends, or you just feel that there's something off, but you don't want to pry, you know, you don't want to be like, oh, is there something wrong, but just be careful about it. I think those are some signs.
Cool. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I definitely think like just if you see someone like kind of like hiding, or it could be like someone try like you look at them and you can just tell, you know, sometimes intuition tells a lot. Like you should trust your
Exactly.
intuition that, oh, I feel like something is wrong, and there's nothing wrong with asking. You never really know, just even if they don't respond to you or they don't like tell you what is really up, you asking them, hey, are
That
you
makes the
okay?
biggest difference,
Yeah,
just
makes
asking.
the biggest difference. So that could be one. So thank you. Thank you. Do you have anything else to say, Sheila?
Yeah, for me, it's like in social media, we kind of live in the social media world, that there
Definitely.
are so many cries for helps. Please look at what your friends are posting, the
Oh
single
yeah, I
words
totally noticed that too.
that they are saying, right? It told like the things that they're reposting, it's telling you something. So don't just like be blindsided. Like even if you don't talk to them, I always encourage like even an emoji or something. You don't
Mhm.
know, right?
Just something is better than nothing, and that's really important for anyone who's thinking about this, because I know in times like these, of course, right now, is that some people are really struggling with their mental health and they really want to ask for help, but they just don't know how. Of course, how can you, everything's on social media. We can't really like group up right now because of the pandemic.
Uh-huh.
So it's really important to, like Sheila said, to see what they're posting and see what what they're liking, or if they're active, maybe check up on them. That's really good. And this kind of is similar to like the challenge of mental health, which is the stigma. And I think the stigma is the biggest challenge of mental health, that we have the stigma that like mental health is negative,
Yeah,
that
definitely. Like people think it's, oh, they're being lazy, or oh,
Oh,
just be
that
happy, be grateful for how much you have in your life. But those are two different, completely different things.
Mhm. And like we have this stigma where like if you speak about what you're feeling, then you're weak. Like that's not true. you know yeah, I
crying,
what sorry.
crying.
I totally agree, Des.
No, and then like for me, I think that if you have a chance, if you have the power to be vulnerable and you do it, that's powerful. That is far just like different than being weak. Being vulnerable is for sure a strength.
I
um
actually just read this book called Quiet, The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking by Susan Cain. And she even had a TED talk on YouTube that's like 10 minutes, really short. And she said that exactly that. I read her book and she was like, oh, like there's so much power in being vulnerable and sensitive. And she had a bunch of stories from her interviews. So yeah, it's exactly what you were saying.
yeah, and it's really true that like this stigma is just what's ruining people and like stopping people from wanting to ask for help, from crying for asking for help, for even seeking it, for even talking about their mental health. Mental health is not only having like asking for help for mental health doesn't only mean having a diagnosis. It could be, I feel sad today. Like we need to normalize seeing therapists. We
Yeah, also to normalize not being happy all the time.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
You like, yeah, see anything to say?
Yeah, I just said that. I just want to say there's like true joy in your sadness, and really finding this peace that surpasses knowing. And one of the things I always do talk about is my faith in God. And I'm not shy to say that because that keeps me at peace. That keeps me whole. And I hope that people do find that for themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's really important to find something that can help you with your mental health and to find out what we can do to kind of erase the stigma. I know erasing the stigma is not going to take one snap of a finger. It's not going to take weeks. It's going to take years to, it's but it's important to like realize that we have gone a long way about mental health. You know, they used to treat mental health years from now like so badly, like not they used to treat mental health like they weren't human. And I'm happy that we treat mental health with more of like emergency, with more attention, but I feel like we could do better. And
Of course.
and with us and with our platforms we can do that. And
Definitely.
and we can talk and now we could talk about is how to respond when you or a loved one is struggling. And I know that's something a lot of people kind of need, is that they see that their friends or their friends or family are struggling and they don't know how to help, or they don't know what steps to take, or they see that we are in a generation that is struggling with mental health and they don't know how to help. So what to you ladies, what is one thing that someone can respond, so how someone can respond?
I definitely what Sheila said earlier about how her friend just listened to her. That was so beautiful. Like because everyone just kind of is into like themselves. I feel like as the years go by, like as a generation, we're just always like it's like me, me, me. And just listening to her and just listening to him or her and just letting them know that, oh, your feelings are valid, it's okay to feel that way, and not judging, or and also just saying that it's a safe place, like whatever you know you say will not, like, it'll go not go out or anything to anyone else. I think that's really nice, just to be an ally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that- yeah, that's true. And you know, sometimes we think to help people we have to do this big thing, you know, we have to take them out, we have to know what to say. I know a lot of people don't, like, kind of like hesitant to help because they don't know what to say. And sometimes you don't even have to say anything, you know. Yeah, you can just like what yeah, just be there, like just to sit there, just to be in their presence is something, like a really big thing that you can do for someone who is struggling right now or later on or anything.
Yeah. I think one of the best ways you could really help yourself is by getting educated. And mental health is such a complex thing. So it's not only you're getting educated in what they're going through, but really get to know your friends and what would help, because you never know. A small smile could help them, sending them $5 on their memo for like a tea or a chicken nugget. It's not a big deal. But those little things that we don't even, I think even when I receive a text that says, hey, what's up, from somebody, just just checking on you, I'm just like, you care about me. And I love that. And I just want to shout out Desiree. She does that for me. So she practices what she preaches. I just met Ashna, but she's the president, so we know she's doing her thing. We're not playing. So yeah.
Yeah, and another one that, like, if you want to speak up about if you want to help mental health, not only in yourself, your friends, but also in your community, is to speak up the way you can, like how you can, you know. It doesn't have to be like going to a big old audience and saying this. It could be sharing resources. It could be share like explaining, educating other people about mental health, you know. Educating yourself about mental health and educating other people is very powerful. You know, we have this huge
Exactly.
misconception of mental health, and a lot of people just don't understand it, and they're afraid to understand it, because they don't want to like complex, like they don't want to understand. Yeah, what?
It's definitely like, for example, my parents, like they didn't, when they came here as immigrants, they didn't really know much about mental health. But when they kind of got more aware of like resources, like our friends would use like maybe going to therapy or anything else, then when they got a little more aware and educated, I think that their viewpoint on mental health is a lot more different.
And I love that. I love to hear that. And especially in even the Filipino culture, mental health is not like, it's hard. It's a hard topic to even talk about, because they just say like, oh, you're just sad, and like, just be strong and you'll be okay,
Yeah, oh my God, just be strong. I hear that like so.
Yeah.
Like, what is strong? What is that?
Yeah.
But, yeah. Sorry. I just want to talk about like vulnerability. Is that like when you are going through it, it does take a lot of courage for somebody to open to you, as well as they open to whomever. And I think vulnerability is so key in this all, and having an open heart and mind to listen to it. Because I just want to add that.
Yeah, and vulnerability is like very, very important. Like, and no one talks about how, like, some people say, why should I ask? Because they're not going to tell me, but you kind of like, people kind of like mirror you, if you if you show vulnerability, people will want to show it too. So it all starts with us. Starts with you.
It's like a mirror reaction.
Yeah, it's mirror reactions. And another way to help the mental health community, or help mental health, is by stopping the stigma, is by doing your part in your end. Is basically not being afraid to show your vulnerability, because the more you're not afraid of showing your vulnerability, other people aren't going to be afraid anymore either. And that could be one way in stopping the stigma. It's not gonna take a revolution. It could be start with ourselves. It could be checking up on people. It could be sharing your voice, and you don't know how much you can inspire people just by sharing your story.
Mm-hmm.
That's really, really important, and that's something that you could do to take step as a community, if you want to help for mental health, or you want to help other people with their mental health.
That reminds me of something we did as a club on our Instagram. We some anonymous members shared their story, and it wasn't like forceful or anything. It was like, oh, if you wanted to. So one person shared their story, and then we posted it on our Instagram. And I noticed like after that, when more people gave submissions, the story became even more detailed, because when one person shares a story, the other person does too. And it wasn't like personal details, like they didn't say their name or like, the specifics, but just like how they were feeling, and throughout their mental health journey. That was just really nice how everything was out in the open.
Yeah. And I think that's very beautiful, because it kind of like opens up like a safe space. It opens up a safe space. It opens up a community. It opens up a lot of things that, like, it's hard to find. And I'm really, really happy that we have opportunities. So if you are looking for, so anyone who's watching this, if you're looking for something to speak your mind, and if you really need to, there are resources like Active Minds.
Yeah.
Have
There's also on campus, it's you can book up to 6 free therapy sessions if you're an SJSU student.
Yes, and and it's a good resource. If you're watching this and you're an SJSU student, remember you have 6 therapy sessions that you can book.
And it's open during like COVID times. They're doing video call sessions.
So good.
Private, yes. And
I think
what? Sorry.
I think the East Bay campus, guys, if you're watching from East Bay, I think that they also have that same thing every semester.
Definitely look at your college, whatever college you go to, definitely look at your health center, and they'll probably have information online.
Yes. And I will, I do have a blog. If anyone in the audience didn't know, I do have a blog that I will be posting resources. I will be posting everyone on this podcast. And there is also a comment section to tell me or anyone what are you feeling, what are you struggling with. It is totally anonymous. You don't have to put your name.
That's a great idea, guys. I love that.
I love that.
I'm trying to still develop it. I'm trying to learn how to share it still, but I do have a comment. If you ever want to say it even in detail, just remember it's anonymous, and if you're not ready to say your name to it, that's okay. Remember that your story matters. Our story matters. Everyone's story matters, no matter what. Like, no matter if it's big or small, whatever that affects you in a way that is hard, it matters, big or small. Cool. And so this is almost the end of our podcast. This is a closing statement. Is there anything of you ladies that you would want to say to the audience that they can take away from this episode and from you?
Yeah.
I feel like my thing I would tell you guys is just live another day. And I say that so passionately because I was a person who didn't want to be alive. And I want to say quickly, that's how my mini soap Mondays came, because I know Mondays are actually a high death for suicide. People don't want to go to jobs that they want to, like work or this and that. But please keep going. You don't know how much of a difference and you are to this world. So just live another day.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you, Sheila.
Thank you.
I would say definitely if you can take it day by day, take it second by second, minute by minute. And another thing I want to say is always check up on your loved ones. And the third getaway I would want people to know is to do something for yourself once a week. It could be the smallest thing, just outside the norm of your like daily work or school routine. And that will really help you and help avoid any burnout. And that could be different for everybody. That one personal thing for yourself.
Thank you so much for all both of your takeaways. That's really something that I can take away for myself too. And my takeaway is remember that you were important. And that no matter what you're going through, it will surpass. Remember that you are valuable to at least one person in the world.
And I also want to add, also you are loved.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
You are very much loved. And thank you for listening. Thank you for taking your time to figure out what you want to learn about mental health. And it's really important for us and for you, whoever is listening, for us to share a community and help one another, because community is the number one thing that can help us in our mental health. So thank you, ladies, for coming. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
You ladies, it's been a pleasure to have you on my podcast. And tune in for the next 3 podcasts that are happening throughout this month. And I hope you all have a great day. Remember that you are loved, you are important, and you're worthy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.